Welcome, healthy friends, to the Reality of Health podcast. If you've listened to any of my episodes, you can probably tell I pretty much don't believe in most everything that I've always been taught. My reality is different than maybe what you've heard before, because most things that you've heard before are just perpetuated theories and nonsense, to be truthful. So today we're going to get into the nervous system a little bit, especially nerves. This is an important topic, actually, because since you are a water being that runs on electricity, would be probably nice to know how you run on electricity. So let's get into it. What do you do when someone has just collapsed from a heart attack and died? Well, we all know you do CPR. So when you do this CPR, you are breathing your breath into someone else's lungs. What does that do? It gives them charge, electricity from you, which then goes to the heart, we think. Or maybe it could just spark your soul for all we know. But if that doesn't work, then we use the defibrillator.
And clear.
Why? To add electricity. You see, because we are an electrical being. They say that nerves have synapses, and you have to have neurotransmitters to jump a gap and keep going to the next gap, and then to the next gap, and then to the next gap, and jumping all these gaps like leapfrog. From your brain all the way to the tip of your finger. They say the nerve impulses take 0.05 seconds, or 100 to 300 miles per hour. Then some say that it travels at the speed of light. So who really knows? I kind of like that idea, actually, about the speed of light. It's pretty cool, since light is energy, and, well, I love the whole idea of energy. Eric, don't go down that rabbit hole now. Let's stick on topic. All right. So how is it possible to get from your brain to your finger by having to go through the process of shooting down a nerve to then jump a gap and continue that, like, all the way to your finger, instantaneously? How many gaps are there? Is it 1 or 1,000? Nobody knows. The idea of jumping gaps is like trying to go 300 miles per hour to get to California from New York, and you have to stop at all the traffic lights. Do you think you're going to get there really fast? Or do you think it's going to take you much longer than if there were no streetlights? I've mentioned Dr. Harold Hilleman before, and we're going to have an episode in the future on him, but he spent his entire career in neurobiology before he died. He came up with 46 questions about human biology and mostly the nervous system. These questions were all questioning the narrative, the accepted biology. His questions are so directed at each point that they postulate, like, how come you don't see a synapse in a living nerve? You only see it in a dried up sample of a nerve outside of a body. You mean like you pull it out of the body and it gets dehydrated and it cracks because it's dried out? Like most things that dry out, they kind of crack in places, don't they? You ever seen wood when it dries out? He's one of the greatest doctors who ever lived. And the main 46 points that he makes are all things that modern medicine uses as the basis of your body. His questions show that they haven't proved any of them. Mind you, he was a researcher doctor for a very long time. So if you're a gel water human body, like I've talked about so many times, nerves are also made out of protein. They don't have junctions. They're not directional. They're unidirectional. And then you have cholesterol and fat that coat those nerves. The electricity then flows through the middle of the nerve, which is where the structured water and protein is. If you cut that coating, then you have, obvious pain or loss of function. Now, if you get fat-soluble poisons into your body, not only do the fat-soluble poisons affect the fatty areas of your body, but since your nerves are coated in fat, they can interfere with nerve conduction. Then you get things like neurological disorders, autism, dementia, Parkinson's, MS, ALS, epilepsy, ADD, strokes, even headaches, neuropathy, back pain, balance disorders, basically Any pain you can think of, for the most part, is associated with toxins that damage your nerve coating. Then it damages the electrical conduction through the nerve, and the brain perceives it as pain. You might ask, how does electricity even flow? Well, that would be from electrolytes. Minerals. Not enough good water in your diet or minerals, and you can see why you would feel terrible. That's called dehydration. You start interrupting that electrical flow up and down the body, and you're going to have serious problems. How do you get electricity in, Eric? Well, a few ways. First one is through your food. Good food has good charge. Then you have the sun. You can be standing outside on the ground, especially in the grass. And if you want to take it one step further, wet grass. And also from the ether. Yes, Tesla was correct. There is such a thing as ether, and it does impart electrical charge into you. It's known as the electromagnetic field. If that electromagnetic field is a spectrum that is not conducive with the human body, then you're going to feel it. It can make you sick over time or actually make you sick right away. So if you have good EMF frequencies, from a hug to standing on the ground in the grass to prayer to good thoughts, positive thinking, plants in your home, getting into nature as much as possible, especially trees, and on and on and on. Negative things would be like your phone and Wi-Fi and 5G, too many electronics and no hugs, no love, no laughing, stuck indoors all the time, never seeing the sun and never touching the earth, eating bad food, and of course drinking dirty water. Want a supplement to add electricity? The best minerals that are the closest to the human body would be sea plasma water. If you drink super clean water that doesn't have a bunch of poisons and toxins in it, and then you get minerals and a good diet with plenty of good EMF, it's pretty rare to have any health conditions. So in order to make good nerves, you need good protein from a good diet, good water, good minerals, and good electricity. Changing gears. I personally don't believe in mitochondria creating ATP in order to fuel your body for energy. It's yet to be proven, and it's still just a theory. Let me propose a different theory on how your body utilizes ATP from the mitochondria. I believe ATP is used to unfold proteins, and by unfolding those proteins, structured water can be created. Then you can conduct electricity. Think of Jell-O. Heat plus ATP plus the protein, add the water, you make Jell-O. Heat can be any good energy source. The earth or the sun or red light sauna or the ocean or hugs or even the ether. Then you add in the minerals that conduct electricity through the Jell-O, and bam, you've got nerves and liver and a brain and skin and eyes. Densities within the different organs and structures of the body. More dense protein, more dense Jell-O. You see how that works? Super simple, very easy to understand.
That's easy for you to say.
If you don't produce enough ATP, then you can't unfold the proteins to structure the water, so your body will use glycolysis for that instead, which is burning sugar, and then you end up having lactic acidosis. And that gives you many more complications in your body. Can you say heart attack? I have a lactic acid episode. It'll blow your mind if you want to listen to it. That sounds ridiculous, Eric. I understand, but Gerald Pollack proved it. And no one's proved that mitochondria make ATP for fuel. We know it makes ATP. We just don't know what it's for specifically. I believe it is to unfold the proteins. So I'm going to stick with Pollack. It's easy to see that the body makes ATP, but no one's seen an actual proton pump. That's the pump that they say makes ATP in the mitochondria. By the way, if you want to make more ATP, then you can use a supplement called NADH. You know, it's like normal. They just want to complicate everything, don't they? The fact is, 99% of your, quote, cells, unquote, are water. Remember, no such thing as a cell, like I've talked about. 70% of your body mass is water. That means you're a water being. Electricity works through water and minerals, and the more minerals you have and the better the water, the better the health and energy you will have. I guarantee it. You know how you hear about electrolytes all the time? Well, electro is the first part of that word. You know what they make batteries out of? Sodium. Why? Because sodium is charged. So is potassium. Discharge it, and you get electricity. Want to learn something really neat? Did you know that you can use electromagnetic frequency pulses into seawater, and it'll catch on fire and burn? Yeah, Gerald Pollack did it. It's in his book with photos and everything. He did so many studies to prove water and all its benefits and how it has 4 phases and everything else, and yet we want to believe theories from physics that they've never proven at all. No studies to prove any of the stuff they talk about. It's just all theories. So much of science is so unproven. And then when you do prove it, they tell you you're wrong because you're not towing the line. If you have neurological conditions and you want to fix those, well, you're going to need to fix your ATP production, your diet, get good electricity that I've already talked about, and then you're going to want to do a detox protocol for both not only water-soluble poisons, but also fat-soluble. Remember, the fat part of your body holds poisons too, and since your nerves are surrounded by fat, you need to get the poison out of the nerves. Since I can't tell you how to fix it yourself because I'm not allowed to do that, but I can say is what I would do. And that is a lot of sauna, sea plasma water, exercise. Stop consuming any fat or oil that is not butter, tallow, lard from animals that are properly raised. I would fix my diet. I would start structuring my water. There's ways to do that. Look them up. I would ground my feet to the earth and lots of liposomal vitamin C. I would add NADH and a lot of that too. And get away from whatever poison is in my life or in my environment that's causing this situation in the first place. I already have 2 recent episodes talk about poisons in your life. Toxins you never think about, part 1 and 2. And of course, episode 5, Basics of Poor Health. I'd highly recommend listening to those. Maybe this has enlightened you a little bit on what your nerves could possibly be, how much easier it is to understand than getting into all this science that they've never proven with all these neurotransmitters and gaps and synapses and all this stuff that they can't see. Appreciate you listening. If you want to, do all the stuff like subscribing and things like that, I'd love it. Those of you that have been subscribing, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. I'm out.